I've been around the wireless industry for quite some time, and we actually built our first mobile app in 2005. A lot of people think that they think of Apple as launching the whole app experience, but pretty much every mobile operator was selling apps years before the App Store came along. The mechanism has changed. The way that we go about it has changed, but I think the opportunity is just evolving. We've been in business for 8 years. We started doing mobile content with ringtones and wallpapers. We moved into mobile apps, and we've built a lot of different apps for a lot of different companies. Our first app was a college sports-related app. Our most popular was actually called College Hotties. We are equal opportunity. We had college hunks as well. We've done a number of different apps. Our Bikini Blast app was actually the first bikini app on the App Store, and we had phenomenal success for about 2 months. And then all the copycats and all the pirated content started, and it got to the point where there were probably over 5,000 bikini apps, most of which weren't bothering to license the content. They were just doing a Google search and stealing it. So it got to the point where it wasn't very productive before Apple pulled the whole thing down. We've built an app for a company called the Lingerie Football League, a spinoff of the Lingerie Bowl. You can see the trend here. We've also recently announced agreements with 85 different colleges and universities where we're building real-time college sports apps. So it has real-time scores, play-by-play updates during the games. We've got 50 of them live so far. We're adding a bunch of additional sports, and we'll have it on BlackBerry and Android as well in time for football season. We're also doing a number of our own brands and a number of our own apps, but I think the real opportunity here, and kind of the reason that I think some of you might be interested in this, is that I think there are a lot of myths about app stores and developers. I think there are a lot of people who hear the get-rich-quick stories or the people who won the lottery. For every company like Tapulous, which is a great example of a very successful app publisher, there are probably thousands that never get that success or get that attention or the acclaim. You all hear about the guy who quit his job as a developer and made $1 million on his app. Our first app on the App Store came out when there were 500 apps. Now there are 175,000. So that kind of changes the game a little bit if you want to build an app in terms of what you need to do. So what we did, we started building this for our own use, this what we call our Smart App Platform. And we're hosting apps for other companies using our same engine. So we host all the college apps and the Maxim apps and our own content all on the same platform and dynamically deliver content to iPhone, BlackBerry, Android, J2ME, and Brew. We also do Palm now that they're going to continue to stay in business with HP buying them. I think the challenge as a developer is with 170,000 apps out there, how do you make money? It's not just build an app and you're going to make a lot of money and you're going to get rich. Now you have to be a lot more strategic about it. You need to think about how you're going to market it, how you're going to promote it. Data came out this week. It was a little bit surprising. Apple is the number 3 selling smartphone worldwide in the first quarter. Not the number 1, not the number 2. Android is really starting to pick up steam. They're getting a lot of developer support. Android now has about 50,000 apps out there. I think the biggest reason that Android and BlackBerry are ahead of the iPhone is the number of operators selling the device. In many markets, in many countries, like the United States, there's only one. It's AT&T, where all 5 carriers are selling Android and all 5 are selling BlackBerry. The economics of developing an app, these are actually from about a few months old, but the economics of developing an app are a little bit different now. Early on, if you build it, they will buy it. Now, you can put a lot of time and money and effort into an app, and you may not have anybody even know it exists. Now it's all about the marketing of the app. As Constantine said, I've been in the mobile industry for about 22 years. This is actually my third recession, and it kind of feels like I'm in my second bubble. I had been in mobile for about 10 years before the internet, I guess we'd call the internet bubble, came along in 1999. I was going to conferences then, and these brand new college graduates were scoffing. I was old economy because I'd been in business and profitable for 10 years. Well, we all know how that ended. The reality, though, is there were some survivors and some companies that did very well. Amazon came out of that, eBay came out of that, but there were also a lot of pets.coms. I think the same thing could be true for apps today. I think a lot of the developers that are out there that are building an app without a clear purpose, without a clear idea how they're going to market it and how they're going to get customers, are going to have a real challenge in the years ahead. I like to call this the gold rush. It's kind of like California in 1849, where everybody saw the opportunity and came rushing in. The first few people who struck gold made a lot of money. Then the next thing you know, there are a lot of people out there mining, and you have a dozen people upstream and a dozen people downstream that you're competing with. The people that made the money then were Levi Strauss, to come back to the Levi's example, selling blue jeans to the miners, and Wells Fargo doing banking for the miners. So it wasn't just the people out there that were actually mining the gold that were making the money. There's a proliferation of app stores right now, and if you read the industry press, it almost sounds like the mobile operators are just getting on board and just launching their own app store. What they're doing is they're rebranding what they've had all along. They've been selling ringtones and wallpapers and video clips and applications for years. Now they're repackaging it and calling it an app store because Apple's been very successful with that format. And I think Apple has done a good job of making it easy to buy and easy to discover. So I think there's certainly room for improvements, but you don't want to limit it to just that one. Actually, going back to this, there are probably 50 different app stores that exist today, and there's probably going to be another 100 by the end of the year. Everything from Garmin wants to have their own GPS app store. Ford wants to have their own app store. I mean, sometimes it's getting a little bit ridiculous. The point is, you don't want to limit yourself to just one. There's a big world out there, and there are a lot of customers that don't have iPhones. The other problem that we've had is there's a lot of piracy that's going on. As I mentioned that we had with our first bikini app, there are a ton of infringing apps out there. There's an article out last night about apps that are kind of ripping off intellectual property from games, trying to trade on the game's success. How to cheat at this game or something, and they're using the copyright and the trademark. The carriers are not protecting it, the operators are not protecting it. You need to watch for your own brands. So the keys to success here, I think the first one, what is your business model and how do you measure success? What are you trying to get out of building an app? If you want to build an app to get rich, it's not going to work. If you want to build an app to extend your brand or to keep in touch with your customers, that's a very viable method. I think marketing now is probably the single most important part of building an app these days. You can have a fantastic app, but if it's lost in the 175,000 other ones out there, you're not going to recoup your investment. You need to have a solid marketing plan. As Andres said earlier, with the banking app, they're selling them on the bank's own website, or they're distributing it on the bank's website. That's a very, very good method. You're selling it to your own customers, or you're giving it to your own customers. You're staying connected. You're not relying on the app store to sell it for you. I think some of these things kind of go without saying. You want it to be professionally designed. You want it to be localized. I think there's a shift toward local content all throughout, and I think that's a very important point. And last but not least, you want to focus on your strengths. You don't want to do something that doesn't reinforce your core business or your core brand. That's all I have. If anybody has any questions, here's my contact information.